Sarah Hampton had been camping in the remote wilderness of West Virginia for several weeks, seeking solace and refuge from the turmoil that had haunted her life. Amidst the rugged West Virginia wilderness, she embarked on a transformative journey towards inner peace. Her connection to this land was unique. 50 acres of it had been willed to her by Lisa, her favorite aunt, who had been the black sheep of the family on Sarah's mother's side. She remembered her mom's continual criticism of her sister's life. "Your Aunt Lisa had no filter. She can outcuss the devil and outdrink any man alive. I think she's a wild child because she let our parents brawl and get the better of her in life. While everyone snagged good-paying government jobs, she failed to launch and did nothing about her future. That's why she ended up as a weirdo, living alone out in the sticks. Crazy life choices will do that to you." Life choices can lead you down unexpected paths, Sarah thought. But her Aunt Lisa was different. Lisa was a warm-hearted person, incredibly skilled in making jewelry. Her beautiful creations graced fine art galleries and upscale jewelry stores. Lisa held a special place in Sarah's heart. Despite Lisa's quirky ways, Sarah cherished memories of visiting her secluded mobile home during her lonely childhood. Lisa showered her with unconditional love and kindness. They'd sip fresh lemonade, bake oatmeal cookies from scratch, and even play Texas Hold'em poker. Sarah also remembered Lisa's funky retro t-shirts and quirky online purchases, like those whimsical mercury-filled glass flamingo barometers with yellow top hats that rocked. Lisa allowed Sarah to explore the immediate area around her well-maintained vegetable gardens, but she firmly cautioned her not to venture deeper into the woods and to return indoors before dusk. Sarah always felt secure during her stays with her aunt, so she hadn't taken Lisa's warnings too seriously, although she consistently followed them. When Lisa fell ill, Sarah was serving overseas, embroiled in a war she had never believed in, enduring mistreatment from her male comrades. The news of her aunt's cancer diagnosis hit her hard. Soon after, a second message arrived from her mother, bluntly informing her that Aunt Lisa had passed away and left an essential letter for Sarah. The letter reached her the following week. "Dear Sarah, I hope this letter finds you well. I've decided to give you my 50-acre plot of land, but there's something important you need to know. For many years, a strange group of mountain people lived on that land. They'd sneak in and steal my vegetables shortly after I bought the property. I scared them off once by showing them my shotgun, and thankfully, they never returned. I always worried about your safety when you visited me. I kept an eye on you as you explored the yard, ready to protect you if needed. Charlie Phillips, our local sheriff, and I periodically patrolled the property, but we never found any evidence of their continued presence. I hope they've moved elsewhere, far away from there. Sarah, I'm giving you this land because I know you can handle whatever comes your way. Please, find a way to come home from my funeral. Your mom will help settle my affairs with our attorney. Take care and stay safe. Love you always, Aunt Lisa." Now, as a world-traveled 30-year-old, Sarah noticed that the property's landscape had dramatically changed for the worse. Thick patches of weeds and ivy overtook the old yard. Aunt Lisa's mobile home had been removed from the property 20 years ago, and she had moved into Charlie Phillips's house in town. This left Sarah with the task of creating her own shelter, and it was a challenge she readily embraced. Anything to get her mind off herself. Sarah was a solitary, troubled soul, detached from her immediate family. The scars of her past in the military ran deep, manifesting as nightmares and flashbacks that haunted her every waking moment. She relished the opportunity to lose herself in the wilderness for months as a form of distraction. Despite her inner struggles, she excelled as a marksman. Her firearm served both as tools for self-defense and symbols of her resilience. Among her steadfast companions were an AR-10 308 rifle, a Mossberg pump-action shotgun, a Glock 19, and a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 10mm handgun, each loaded with the assurance of protection. Her SUV, a mobile fortress, held provisions to last for months. But it was Max, her loyal and highly trained German shepherd, who stood unwaveringly by her side as companion and protector. Lisa's warnings about the surrounding landscape definitely gave Sarah pause. She would now be on the lookout for evidence of anyone squatting on her land. At first, the cool autumn weather provided a welcome change from the sweltering summer heat. But as the days passed, a biting, icy cold began to settle in. Frost painted the leaves with delicate crystals, and her breath hung in the air like ghostly whispers. During these initial months in the wilderness, Sarah embraced the simplicity of life. Using a handmade fishing rod, she skillfully caught her meals from several of the clear streams that flowed through her expansive property. Sarah would pitch tennis balls into the chilly streams, and Max joyfully chased after them as they soared over his head. Sometimes, in the seclusion of the woods, she shed her clothes and dipped into the frigid waters herself for a liberating skinny dip, as if the cold could wash away her inner scars. It numbed her both physically and emotionally, and she savored the sensation of truly being free. In the evenings, she gathered firewood and kindled huge, warm fires that danced like ancient spirits in the night. With her well-honed survival skills, she cooked hearty meals of fresh fish and root vegetables over searing flames, savoring the taste of simplicity and self-sufficiency. She was lucky to have an abundance of dry, shallow caves on the land, and she always used them as base camps for the added protection of having her sick secured. The area where Sarah camped had a storied past, a place where ancient tribes once roamed, leaving behind traces of their existence in the form of mysterious petroglyphs and stone circles. Sarah oftentimes sensed an eerie, unseen presence all around her. The woods were old, whispering tales of forgotten civilizations and untamed landscapes. Sarah was increasingly amazed by the unending beauty and remoteness of this deep, dark, primeval forest. As she ventured further in, the tranquility of the late autumn woods belied the turmoil within her. And as Sarah delved deeper into her quiet haven, an eerie feeling of being watched intensified. Max would often stop and occasionally stare and growl at large, dense thickets of thorny brush along the property's vast hiking trails. Sarah imagined that he was sensing the presence of some small woodland creatures and thought no more of it. That was until she was walking along a southern path that led back to her present camp. As her loyal companion Max padded ahead, he abruptly halted, his snarls echoing through the dense foliage. Sarah's gaze followed his intense focus, and there, amidst the overgrown bushes about 100 yards ahead and to the right, lay a human femur bone. Its presence was unsettling, recently placed, its muscle tissues and cartilage still visible in the dirt. Her eyes shot up, and she drew her Glock. She stood scanning the area that captured Max's vigilant attention and all points surrounding them. She listened intently. It was dusk, and she had difficulty seeing anything in the tall, overgrown bushes. Then, Sarah caught a smell that reminded her of one of the many nightmares she had endured as a soldier. It was the smell of burning human flesh. She instantly called Max to her side, and they fell back the way they came at a brisk jog. Sarah glanced backward. a glimpse that chilled her to the bone. Just adjacent to where Max had been barking, she saw two colossal men in dirty, tattered overalls standing in the middle of the trail. Their wild eyes and disheveled appearance sent shivers down her spine. They made no move to pursue her, apparently content to simply stand there and gawk at her retreating figure. Awareness of these dangerous weirdos on her property heightened her vigilance. When Sarah and Max returned to camp via a circuitous route, she quickly began packing up her vehicle. She would be headed to town by first light to report the squatters to Sheriff Phillips and the likelihood of cannibalism taking place near the Appalachian Trail. It was getting late, and it was never a good idea to travel out of a heavily wooded area in complete darkness. As night encroached, it rapidly grew darker and colder. An unsettling presence permeated the forest. The woods, once a place of contentment, began to whisper secrets of danger. Her military instincts awakened, alerting her to the impending threat. She and Max waited inside the cave's entrance, watching for movement within the forest. Sarah sat on a boulder and rested her rifle, equipped with a night scope, on her right thigh. The moon cast elongated shadows across the forest floor. Sarah's breaths came in measured bursts, her pulse echoing the urgency of the situation. Max, ever loyal, pressed against her leg, his fur bristling. They were a team, a battle-hardened duo forged by adversity and survival. As the minutes stretched into hours, Sarah's mind raced. The clan would come. She knew it. Their hunger drove them, their twisted lineage compelling them to seek prey. She had seen their faces, their sunken eyes, their elongated limbs. They were the remnants of a cursed bloodline, a grotesque tapestry woven from generations of isolation and inbreeding. 3 minutes past midnight, Sarah's fingers traced the cold metal of her rifle. She had set booby traps around the perimeter of her camp. Ingenious, deadly snares that would swiftly end the unwary. The first was a series of strategically placed shotgun shell landmines that were activated by the enemy's body weight, hidden beneath a layer of leaves. The second was a pitfall, a deep hole camouflaged with branches and moss. Sharp stakes awaited anyone who stumbled into its depths. Max's ears twitched, and Sarah tensed. The forest held its breath. Then, a rustle, a shadow moving through the underbrush. Her night scope revealed a hunched figure, its eyes glinting like a feral animal. The first of the clan. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. She had faced worse in war-torn lands, but this was her battle now. She whispered to Max, and he crouched beside her, ready to spring. The figure stepped directly into the pitfall, and the forest erupted in chaos. His scream echoed as he impaled himself on the stakes. Sarah's heart raced. One down. Soon, dozens of cannibals stepped onto the shotgun shells. Metal against bone. Detonations like thunder. Their wild eyes widened as limbs were torn apart, flesh shredded. The forest floor absorbed an endless fountain of gushing blood. Some were blown backward, their twisting bodies disintegrating. Others writhed, mangled and screaming, their hunger extinguished by the merciless traps. But they kept coming. Sarah fired, and another threat was extinguished, a woman this time. The clan's guttural, angry cries filled the night, their hunger undiminished. Sarah reloaded, her hands steady. Max darted forward, teeth bared, and dragged another adversary into the pitfall. The forest floor became a graveyard. Sarah's traps worked, the clan's desperation blinding them to the dangers. But there were more, always more. Their twisted forms stumbled over fallen logs, their eyes wide with rage. She fired until her ears rang, until her vision blurred with exhaustion. And then there was an eerie silence. Sarah knew this. That's all folks' ploy. Oh no, this boomstick battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It was just getting started. She and Max were in for a very long night. Around 3 a.m., terror materialized yet again, in the form of a tribe of approximately 20 feral mountain people shambling from the tree line. Grotesque and nightmarish, they calmly filed out from the edges of the woods into a moonlit clearing. They were approximately 40 yards from Sarah's cave entrance, and their misshapen inbred forms bobbed and lurched to face her. They showed no hesitation as they made a slow beeline towards her, arms outstretched. Their guttural groans of hunger and menace echoed through the trees and turned her stomach. Sarah's determination remained unshaken, however, and Max awaited her silent command. She wouldn't use his services until a few got uncomfortably close. She yelled at them to halt, but her voice only seemed to spur them on in her direction. A final battle followed that was a cacophony of chaos and precision. Sarah's marksmanship was her salvation, each shot an expression of her anger and her will to survive. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the guttural groans of the approaching horde. Their grotesque forms defied natural order. Their eyes, wild and hungry, locked onto her like vultures spotting prey. She clutched the cold metal of her rifle, fingers trembling, but resolute. Max stood at her side, ears alert and hackles raised. His eyes mirrored her determination. They had faced danger together before. Wolves, blizzards, and treacherous cliffs. But this was different. These were not mere predators. They were the embodiment of her deepest fears, the ones she had tried to forget. Fear of being eaten alive by literal monsters. "Steady, Max," Sarah cautioned. Her voice carried across the clearing, a desperate plea for sanity. But the mountain people paid no heed. Their misshapen limbs propelled them forward, arms reaching out, nails like talons. Their hunger was primal, their menace palpable. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. She had trained for this moment, honing her marksmanship in the midst of previous battles. Shots rang out. An enormous hillbilly fell, a grotesque silhouette crumpling to the forest floor. But there were more. Their numbers seemed endless, like shadows converging on her. "Max!" she commanded, and he lunged. His teeth sank into the throat of the nearest intruder, a guttural cry escaping the creature. Sarah fired again, and another fell. The mob was getting too close, so she grabbed her Mossberg shotgun, and the lead started to fly. Body parts instantly reduced to a bloody mist. The symphony of chaos intensified. The clash of damaged bodies to get to Sarah, the desperate cries, and the metallic tang of blood. Her legs trembled as she backed towards the cave entrance. Max fought alongside her, a blur of fur and teeth. She glimpsed the moon through the trees, a pale witness to their struggle. The hillbillies closed in, their misshapen faces twisted in pain and rage. Then, silence. The last shot echoed, and the clearing lay still. Sarah's chest heaved, her vision blurred. Max limped towards her, bloodied but alive. She collapsed beside him, tears mixing with dirt and sweat. They were battered, but unbroken. The mangled tribe lay defeated, their threat extinguished by her unwavering resolve. Sarah glanced at Max, his eyes reflecting the same fierce determination. They had survived the night. but the primal screams of these savages still rang in her ears. The cursed clan might be gone, but their legacy haunted the mountains. As dawn painted the sky, Sarah vowed to remove all traces of these wild people from her property, her silent partner by her side. They had probably been hunting hikers on the Appalachian Trail for years, hence the legendary missing person cases. The moon retreated, leaving only the memory of feral eyes and hunger. She would remember this night, their fight for survival, and carry it with her, etched into her very bones. For in the heart of darkness, she had found her strength and her purpose. And Max had become more than a loyal companion. He was her salvation, her tether to sanity in a world where nightmares materialized at 3 a.m.